I haven't slept, really slept, in months. Not since my dream solo camping trip. I have to tell someone what happened. I have to get this story out, all of it, from the beginning, because I need someone, anyone, to believe me. I need to know I'm not crazy. I need someone to believe that what was stalking me out there, what was hunting me, was real. Talking about it, telling it again and again, it's the only thing that keeps the memory from swallowing me whole. It's a twisted paradox. I'm terrified of the memory, but the only relief I get is dragging it into the light, hoping someone else will see its shape and tell me they see it too. So please, just listen. Because every time I shut my eyes, I'm right back there. I feel the cold seeping up from the ground. I smell the campfire and the wet dirt, and I hear its voice. My own voice, calling for me out of that crushing, suffocating darkness. It all started with what I thought was the perfect plan. Look, I've been a camper, a hiker, an outdoorsman for most of my life. I'm not some rookie who jumps when an owl hoots. I've spent more nights under the stars than in hotel rooms. I've survived freak snowstorms in the Rockies, found my way with a compass and the stars, and come face to face with black bears where we both just sort of nodded and went our separate ways. The woods are my church. Or they were. The silence, being totally alone. That's what I craved. It's where I recharged. This trip, though, this was the big one. I've been saving and planning this for years, buying gear piece by piece. I finally had my dream solo setup. A big canvas bell tent you could stand up in with a tiny wood-burning stove. A proper cot with a memory foam mattress. A solar generator to run some warm Edison-style string lights and keep my camera charged. This wasn't just camping. I was building a home out there, a little fortress of comfort deep in the middle of nowhere. The spot I picked was deliberately remote, in a little-known national forest out in the high desert, right up against tribal lands rich with history and folklore. I'd spent weeks poring over satellite maps, following faint logging roads until I found one that just stopped. It ended in a small meadow, surrounded by huge ancient pine trees and a sheer rock face on one side. It was perfect. It was a solid 2-hour drive on a dirt road off the main highway. Then another 45 minutes of crawling in low gear down this overgrown track. I had to clear the last quarter-mile myself, just moving rocks and fallen branches. I knew for a fact I wouldn't see another living soul. That was the whole idea. That first day was heaven. The air was crisp, smelling of pine and sage. I took my sweet time setting up camp, enjoying every second of it, hammering the stakes into the ground, putting the stove together, stringing up the lights. By the time the sun started to go down, casting these long, epic shadows, it looked like a picture from a magazine. The big, cream-colored tent stood out against the dark forest, a little curl of smoke coming from its chimney. I remember just standing there, coffee in hand, feeling this incredible wave of peace. This was it. The total solitude I'd worked for. The silence was deep, the kind you can feel, broken only by the wind in the pines and the crackle of the fire I'd started. I know the woods at night. I know the difference between the comfortable quiet of an empty forest and that heavy, waiting silence you get before a storm or when a big predator is near. This was the good kind. A calm, ancient quiet. As it got truly dark, The stars just exploded. The Milky Way was a thick, shimmering smear across the sky. I cooked a steak, drank a beer, and just sat there listening to the night. Crickets, a distant coyote howl, the pop and hiss of the fire. Every sound was a familiar one. Everything belonged. I was completely at ease. I was an expert in his element, with the right gear and a healthy respect for nature. I was ready for a bear, a mountain lion, whatever. What I wasn't ready for was something that didn't belong anywhere. The first sign something was off was tiny. So small that the experienced part of my brain just filed it away and dismissed it. It had to be around midnight. The fire was down to glowing embers and it was getting cold. I was leaning back in my camp chair, just soaking it all in, when I heard it. A twig snap. A twig snap in the woods is the most cliché sound of the world. It's the background noise of the forest. It could be anything. My reaction was automatic. Stop, listen, scan the dark. Nothing. No follow-up sound. No rustling, no heavy steps. Just silence again. And my rational side, the part that spent years in the woods, just went. Deer. Probably a deer. They're ghosts. I took a sip of my coffee, told myself not to be so jumpy, and threw another log on the fire. But that little seed of doubt was planted. The quiet didn't feel comfortable anymore. It felt heavy, like it was waiting for something. You know that feeling when you think you're home alone and a floorboard creaks upstairs? You tell yourself it's just the house settling, but you can't shake that sudden, prickly feeling you might not be alone. I felt a chill on the back of my neck, that primal animal instinct that you're being watched. Again, I tried to reason it away. You're in the middle of nowhere, I muttered. You're just letting the dark get to you. It happens. Your mind plays tricks on you out here. I'd felt it before, but never this strong. I made myself busy, cleaning up, getting my pack ready for the morning. Anything to push the feeling down. I stood up and did a slow circle, sweeping the tree line with my headlamp. The beam cut a sharp cone in the black, lighting up tree trunks, the rock face, sagebrush. Nothing. Not even the shine of an animal's eyes. It was almost too still. I decided to call it a night. The wood stove had the tent nice and toasty, and my cot looked amazing. I locked the food in the bear canister a good ways from camp, drowned the fire, and zipped myself into my canvas bubble. Inside, with the warm glow from a lantern, the world felt safe again. The creepy feeling started to fade. I'm just tired, I told myself. My senses are on high alert. It's natural. I drifted into a light, uneasy sleep. I was in that weird space between dreaming and being awake when a new sound snapped me out of it. A voice, or something like a voice. It was far away, on the wind, so faint I thought I might be imagining it. It was like a whisper, but with this weird, warbling quality, like a distorted recording. My heart started pounding. I sat bolt upright, every muscle tight. I held my breath, listening so hard my ears hurt. For a full minute, there was nothing but the sound of my own blood roaring. I was about to lie down, write it off as a dream or the wind, when I heard it again. Closer this time. Clearer. It was my name. Whispered, but unmistakably my name. The pronunciation was perfect, but the inflection, it was all wrong. Flat. Hollow. No emotion at all, like a machine trying to say a word it had learned. The sound seemed to come from the direction of the rock face, echoing a little in the dead, still air. This was different. I couldn't explain this away. It wasn't a deer. It wasn't the wind. My blood went ice cold. There was someone else out here. And they knew my name. How? How was that possible? I hadn't seen anyone in 2 days. I hadn't said my name out loud. My mind started flipping through impossible scenarios. A park ranger? No, they wouldn't sneak around whispering. Another camper who's lost? Then why whisper? Why not yell for help? I grabbed my big tactical flashlight, my hand shaking so bad I could barely hold it. All my years of experience, my calm, rational mind, it was all just melting away into pure animal fear. That feeling of being watched wasn't just a feeling anymore. It was a fact. Someone, or something, was right outside my tent, and it was playing with me. I crept to the door, my heart trying to punch its way out of my chest. Every instinct screamed at me not to open it, to just stay inside until sunrise. But another part of me had to know. I had to see what was out there. Slowly, so slowly, I pulled the zipper down. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet tent. I poked the flashlight out first, then my head. The cold air hit me. The fire was completely out. The moon was up, lighting the meadow in this pale, ghostly light. But the woods beyond were a solid wall of black. I swept the beam back and forth along the tree line, my hand trembling. Nothing but trees. Then I moved the beam toward the rock face where the voice came from, tracing it over the rough granite. And then I stopped. At the bottom of the rock face, half hidden by some bushes, something was standing there. It wasn't a person. It wasn't an animal. My brain just short-circuited. For a second, I thought it was a deer on its hind legs. It had the head of a buck, a big one, with a whole rack of antlers that seemed to scrape the sky. But the body was just wrong. It was long and skinny, covered in patchy, dark fur like a sick coyote. Its arms, and they were arms, not front legs, were long and spindly, with these gnarled, huge hands and long, dark claws. It just stood there, unnaturally still, its deer head cocked at an angle a deer could never manage, staring at my tent. It was a disgusting mix and match of things that don't belong together. I was frozen, the beam locked on it. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My brain was desperately trying to find a category for it and coming up with absolutely nothing. It was a living, breathing violation of everything I knew to be real. As I stared, paralyzed, it moved its head. The moonlight caught its eyes. They weren't the soft, dark eyes of a deer. They were bright. They seemed to glow with their own faint, sick light. And then it spoke. It opened a mouth that shouldn't have been able to make words, and that same flat, hollow whisper snaked across the meadow. "Come on out," it said. "It's okay. We're just having some fun." But the voice, it wasn't the same whisper. This time, it was a perfect copy, a perfect mimic of my father's voice. The man who taught me to camp. The man whose voice had meant safety my entire life. Hearing his voice come out of that thing, it just broke me. I made some kind of sound, a choked little gasp, and the spell broke. I scrambled back, fumbling with the damn zipper. My fingers felt like fat, useless sausages. At the edge of the woods, the thing took a step forward. It didn't walk. It moved with this horrifying loping stride, its long limbs eating up the ground with this weird, fluid speed. It stopped right at the edge of the meadow, a dark shape against the black trees, its glowing eyes locked on my tent. I got the zipper closed and threw myself to the back of the tent, as far from the door as I could get. My mind was just a tornado of disbelief and terror. This isn't happening. It's a nightmare. I ate something bad. It's the altitude. Then I heard it again, right outside the tent. "Son, what's the matter? You seem spooked. Open up." My father's voice. Perfect, laced with his gentle concern. It was so real it made my skin crawl. It knew. It somehow knew that voice was the one that would get to me. It was using my love for my dad as a weapon. "You're not my father," I screamed, my voice cracking. A pause. The silence that came next was worse than the voice. I could hear my own ragged breathing, my heart hammering. Then a new sound. A low, wet, guttural chuckle that seemed to vibrate right up through the ground. Then another voice. "Honey, please let me in. It's cold out here." My mother's voice, sweet and loving and desperate. I felt sick. It was digging through my head, pulling out the people I loved and wearing their voices like masks. I huddled on the cot, gripping the heavy flashlight like a club. I thought of the small axe I'd left by the woodpile, the knife in my pack. Useless. What could I do against something that moved like that? Something that could steal voices? Then the scratching started, a light testing sound on the canvas. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Like one long claw being dragged down the tent wall. I shuffled away from the sound, pressing myself against the far side. The scraping moved, circling me. It was testing the tent, probing for a weak spot. It wasn't treating this like a tent. It was treating it like a cage with something interesting inside. "I know you're in there," a new voice whispered. My best friends, the one who was supposed to be on this trip with me. The casual, easy tone was so perfect it was like he was standing right there. "Come on, man, stop messing around. We're gonna miss the meteor shower." It was a full-on psychological attack. It was trying to confuse me, to get me to come outside, to just break me. And with every new voice, I felt a piece of me just crumble. The terror was so complete it turned into this cold rage. It was defiling my memories. It was twisting the people I loved into monsters. "Leave me alone," I roared. The only answer was another one of those horrible, gurgling laughs. Then a loud thump against a tent pole that shook the whole structure. It was getting bolder. It was done with the mind games. I could hear it sniffing around the base of the tent, loud, wet inhales, like a huge dog. My phone. I scrambled for my phone. No signal, of course. I knew there wouldn't be. My camera. I had to get this on camera. If I was going to die, someone was going to know what did it. My hands were slippery with sweat as I grabbed my DSLR camera. I fumbled it, finally switched it to video mode, pointed it at the door, and hit record. The little red light blinked on. A tiny witness. Then the creature spoke again. In a new voice. It was my own. "It's no use hiding," it said. A perfect, chilling copy of my own voice. "I'm already inside." That broke me. I just sobbed. The idea that it could not only sound like me, but that it was claiming to be inside my head. It was the most terrifying thought I have ever had. And that's when my lantern, my only light, started to flicker. The steady glow faltered, dimmed, brightened, dimmed again. I looked at the solar generator. The power light was blinking like crazy. It had been fully charged. It was like the creature's presence was literally draining the life out of my gear. The scratching stopped. An awful, heavy silence fell again. I held my breath. What was it doing? Suddenly, a deafening rip. The sound of thick canvas tearing. It wasn't the door. It was the back of the tent, right where I was. I spun around, my flashlight beam cutting wildly through the dying light. A long, dark claw had sliced right through the canvas wall like it was paper. It ripped downwards, creating a gaping black slash. A second claw appeared. The fabric was peeled back, and a head pushed its way inside. The deer head. The same dead black eyes. The same terrible antlers scraping the ceiling of my tent. It was inside with me. My sanctuary was gone. It tilted its head in that unnatural bird-like way, and a new sound came out of its throat. Not a voice. It was a wet, clicking sound that I felt in my teeth. The sound of something that wasn't from this world. My flashlight, my expensive, tactical, tough-as-nails flashlight, picked that exact moment to die. The beam flickered and went out, plunging the tent into almost total darkness. All that was left was the pathetic, final strobing of the dying lantern. I was in a dark, sealed space with that thing. I could smell it now. Rot and wet fur and something metallic and wrong. I could hear its ragged, wet breathing. I didn't think. I just reacted. I screamed, this high, thin sound I didn't recognize, and scrambled for the door. I threw myself at the zipper, tore it open, and exploded out into the night, leaving everything. The tent, the stove, the camera that was still recording. I didn't care. My dream camp was a tomb. I ran. I burst out of that tent and just ran. I didn't look back. I couldn't. All I could think was forward, away from the ripped canvas and the rot and the clicking. I sprinted across the meadow, my bare feet screaming on the cold, lumpy ground. The moonlight made me feel horribly exposed, like a target in the open. My car was a quarter-mile away down the track I'd cleared. A quarter-mile had never felt so long. I plunged into the tree line, and the darkness was suddenly total. I was running blind, arms out, crashing through bushes, tripping on roots. Branches whipped my face. Every shadow was the creature. Every sound was it right behind me. I could hear it. I swear I could. It wasn't a person crashing through the woods. It was quieter. A swift, gliding sound that just kept pace with me. And the voices started again, chasing me through the dark. "Don't run from us." My mother's voice full of fake sadness. "You're going the wrong way." My father's, urgent and wrong. "Just wait up." My friends, cheerful and terrifying. They were coming from all directions at once, trying to disorient me, to make me panic and lose the trail. I clamped my hands over my ears and just kept running, my lungs on fire, a scream stuck in my throat. I had to find the path. I tripped and went down hard. My knee slammed into a rock and a bolt of pure white pain shot up my leg. I just lay there for a second on the cold dirt, gasping, totally defeated. This is it. It's going to get me. I rolled over, my back against a tree, trying to get up, and I saw it. It was standing on the path behind me, maybe 50 yards back. It wasn't even running. It was just standing there, a horrible silhouette in a patch of moonlight. The deer head was tilted, watching me. It wasn't even out of breath. It was playing with me, letting me run, letting the fear and pain wear me out. Seeing it so calm, so sure of itself, lit a fire under me, pure adrenaline. I was not going to die lying on the ground. I pushed myself up, ignoring the screaming pain in my knee, and I ran. It was more of a limp, a stumble, a sob. But I ran. I didn't look back again. I just stared into the blackness, praying I'd see the glint of my car. After what felt like forever, I saw it. A glint of moonlight on the windshield. It was the most beautiful sight of my life. I pushed harder, fumbling in my pocket for my keys, my fingers numb and clumsy. The beep of the car unlocking was the sound of hope. I ripped the driver's door open, threw myself inside, and slammed it shut. I hit the lock button. That thunk of the locks engaging was maybe the best sound of my entire life. I jammed the key in the ignition, twisted it, and the engine roared to life. The headlights blasted on, cutting a brilliant white path down the trail I'd just run. And it was standing right at the end of the light. Just standing at the edge of the woods, horribly clear in my headlights. The deer head, the mangy body, the two long arms, the glowing eyes. It didn't move toward me. It just stood and watched, its head cocked. Like it was memorizing my face. Like it was saying, "You can run, but I know who you are." I didn't wait. I threw the car in reverse, stomped on the gas, and the tires spun, throwing dirt everywhere before catching. I shot backwards, smashing through bushes, not caring, until I could wrench the wheel and point the car down the road. I slammed it into drive and floored it. I drove like a maniac, bouncing and scraping over the ruts. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see those glowing eyes keeping pace. But there was only darkness. The feeling of being watched, though, that didn't leave. It felt like it was clinging to the back of my car. It took me an hour to get to the main dirt road. When my tires finally hit pavement, I just sobbed with relief. But I didn't stop. I drove for 2 more hours until the sky started to get gray and I saw the lights of a 24-hour gas station. I pulled in, my car caked in mud and scratches, my body shaking so hard I could barely stand. I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost. I stumbled inside, paid for gas in a daze, and just sat in my car under those buzzing fluorescent lights, shaking. I was safe. I was back in the normal world of gas pumps and candy bars. But I knew, with a certainty that makes me cold even now, that something inside me was broken forever. The wilderness was no longer a sanctuary, and the thing in the woods, it had let me go. And that was the most terrifying thought of all. It's been months. I never went back. I couldn't. I left everything. My dream tent, that stove, my expensive camera. Let the forest have it. It's a small price to pay. I did report it. Of course I did. I went to the sheriff's office in the next town over and tried to tell them. You should have seen the look on the deputy's face. Pity with a whole lot of suspicion. He asked if I'd been drinking. He suggested it was a bear, that my mind, alone in the dark, played tricks on me. He filed a report. Possible animal encounter. Camper spooked. And that was that. I tried to tell my friends, my family. They listen, but they don't hear me. They see I'm scared, but they can't understand why. They all try to explain it away. A mangy mountain lion, some sick prankster with a voice changer, a psychotic break from being alone. They want to help, but they can't, because they don't believe me. And when they look at me like I'm crazy, I feel more alone than I ever did out in the woods. That's why I'm telling you this. I don't sleep through the night anymore. Every time I close my eyes, I see those glowing eyes. I hear my father's voice coming from something else's throat. I feel the tent ripping. I've spent so many nights online just spiraling, digging through folklore and cryptozoology, desperate for an answer. That's when I found the stories. Stories from the Navajo lands bordering the forest I was in. Stories about the Yi-Naldlushi, the skinwalker. The descriptions made my blood run cold. A malevolent being that can shapeshift into animals. Stories of unnatural hybrid creatures, part animal, part human. They talked about their terrifying speed. And most of all, they talked about their signature ability to perfectly mimic human voices. To call out to you in the voice of someone you love to lure you into the dark. Everything I saw, everything I heard, it was all there in these old stories. I'm a rational guy, or I was. I believe in evidence. But I can't explain what happened. It wasn't a bear. It wasn't a man in a suit. It was something else. Something ancient and smart and evil. The camera was recording when I ran. I know it was. Part of me hopes that somewhere in the wreck of my camp, there's a memory card with proof. But I can't go back. I will never go back. So all I have is the story. All I have is this memory that feels like an open wound. And I'm telling you because I have to know I'm not the only one. Has anyone else experienced something like this? Something in the deep woods that breaks all the rules? Please, if you have, share it. I need to know I'm not alone in this. I went camping to be alone, and now I'm terrified of being the only one who knows this is real. I just need someone to believe me.